Okay, I turned off that music, whatever that was, that wait music that Elon Musk has put on this thing on Spaces. It's kind of weird. Sounds like a robot. Okay, I'm just waiting for people to get in here. Let's. Hello, Michelle. So send me a request to speak, but we're going to talk about something that pretty much is showing up in every single private reading I do. I mean, I don't know where this topic doesn't apply. So it's time we talk about fear and personal fear and your soul and how you're keeping yourself from your destiny choices. And I'm just as guilty. So send me a request to speak and we'll take your questions. But let me just start off with this. Part of part of what I see in the reads is it's not just wiping away the fear. We have to look at each situation individually and we have to look at why that particular fear is triggering that person that I'm reading. And sure enough, that seems to be the basis for the obstacle, for all the agreements that they've made, choices that they need to actually power through, and and they've become either depressed or they've put off doing whatever choices that they made, agreements like whether it's a marriage or a divorce or moving or buying property or approaching someone that is toxic in your environment and you should have gotten rid of them a long time ago, just that type of thing. But usually when I filter it down and we reduce it to what the cause was or what the trigger was, it's some sort of fear within the individual I'm reading. So I want to talk about how to address that and what to do and why many times those fears are coming from past life events. Um, you just can't help it. You're human. You you actually just revert back to what you used to do in past lives, and that has to be deconstructed in a way where that fear isn't the rudder for the rest of your life here. You have to just see it, recognize it, put yourself in front of the mirror and say, oh, that's my trigger. And I pretty much destroy all my opportunities because I place that at the forefront. So, all right, I'm going to take some questions and we'll teach how this works and how you can dig yourself out of this very quickly. And a lot of it is just recognizing the fear. And once you start that, you can't go back. Like once you see that that's what the thing is, it will not you until you do something about it. It's not somebody is after you or you need to be paranoid that the universe is punishing you for something you've done. Um, this isn't the reason that your destiny choices are going away. It's because you're allowing that fear, usually a past life one, to color all your choices and all your free will interactions with souls that are here. One of the reasons you're here is probably most likely to address that particular fear. So it's kind of ironic that that ends up being the thing. Um, I run into this every reading or every other reading. It's something where, why am I not getting those choices? Why are those opportunities going to somebody else? Why am I the one being punished? Why is it that I am suffering through all this? And a lot of times it's you not recognizing that your fear actually put the brakes on the whole thing, and all you got to do is take the fear, put it in front of a mirror, and look at it. It's not so bad once you do that. It's not so bad. You look in the mirror and you go, okay, this is the thing that I have kept myself from going forward and doing agreements that I agreed to when I first came into the lifetime. And I can't tell you how many times this happens in readings with people, like, where all we have to do is just deconstruct it. And, it's kind of I don't know, like, like, uh, like a piece of furniture, and you get all the pieces and you have all the bolts and the nuts and the wing nuts and the whole thing. And then you get the instructions to put it together. And then at some point, if you move, you have to take that apart. Well, that's what's going on here. The moving is your past life. So, your past life, you're moving to this life. You forgot that you're in this life now. And a lot of times it's as simple as that, just looking at it like, hey, we're in this lifetime now. That fear no has no meaning here. Yes, you went through that in a past life, and yes, you carry those scars. You carry them through. It's ancient history to you. So you find yourself pulling that through into this lifetime as some sort of um, pacifier or excuse, and, oh, well, I have this and this is my handicap, so I can't do it. And yet you don't. You just made it that way because you needed some sort of crutch to hold on to not do the agreements you said you were going to set out to do. And there's no blame to assign here. There's nothing that we need to assign to, you know, any one person. It's just it's human nature to be fearful of things you don't know. So I find myself always teaching with my own examples. So, okay, so I'm going to expose that right now. And I'm in a new situation. I'm moving, and I've been here for decades in Los Angeles, and now I'm moving. I am moving to Chicago, and I am in a new relationship, and I allowed myself to take all of my stupid OCD and all of my fears and all of the things that were actually stopping me from claiming my destiny and going into the new phase, because I was just making this up for myself so I would feel better. Oh, I need to stay here because of all these other stupid reasons that actually made sense to no one. Um, but I held on to it for a really long time. And I find myself teaching through my own example and my own life stuff just because people need, you know, they need a flow chart. They need something to look at. So, okay, I'll put my life up there and you guys can see that I just took a chance on something that I never thought I would do. And I allowed my fear to be set aside because the thing that I'm going to is so much greater than the fear I was placing in the way of it. I don't know if I said that properly, but hopefully you guys understood. Um, all right. So ask me questions based on your own life and how this might apply to you. Audrey, you said you had something that was applying to you. If any one of you wants to ask a question or wants to highlight something, just send me a request to speak. But again, it's like when I started my television career, I had no aspirations of going into TV, like none at all. And I was doing this. I was doing a radio show. It was a national radio show, like 26 million listeners. And I was doing reading. I was fine. I was doing it twice a weekend. You know, because I live in LA, a lot of celebrities were walking through the radio station. So I got to meet them and they became my clients and a lot of stuff happened. But I started working on crime scenes right around that same time because people were calling in about missing persons or a crime that happened or a murder that happened that was unsolved in their family. And since it was a national radio show, I started looking at that and then doing private readings with that. And I thought, well, why don't I just apply what I do naturally to that process? Yes, I was afraid. The first thing you're afraid of as a psychic is, am I going to be wrong? Like what lives hang in the balance because I've said something that will cause a ripple effect, like what responsibility do I have to be exactly okay? I'm going to throw away that fear because the thing that I do is pushing them one step forward, whether it's right or wrong, it's actually gaining movement. So I gave power to the movement of what I was doing. It doesn't need to be right. It needs to be something that's coming deep from within me. And I was afraid to do it. And clearly, that was my destiny. I was having doors open to me with FBI and CIA. I mean, they were contacting me for cases that went cold for 20 years and they needed some new eyes on it. And they said, "Look, you sound reasonable. You don't sound like some like roadside reader advisor." And they would contact me and say, "Look, we don't care if we're talking to a psychic. We just like your mind and how you work and your process. So can you just take a look at this?" And so on the crime stuff, I never charged. That was always free. And I stopped being afraid of having to be right and gave power to the movement forward with what I was doing. And a lot of times you guys stop yourselves because you're so afraid that someone on the outside is going to judge you for what you're putting forward, what you feel is your life calling, what you feel is your next step. And you're so afraid of being judged or rejected that you don't allow yourself to just go forward. So that was my way out of that maze of fear. I ended up propelling myself forward into the unknown because it's definitely unknown. You don't know if you're going to be accepted for what you do. And I was doing something fairly new at the time where psychics were just starting to get into crime work. And I knew that. And I knew that I would be ridiculed and people would, judge me as a person for it. And was I ready for that? No, but the work was too important and it was so fascinating to me. So I just kept going. And I threw away my fear. And that's how, I mean, you have to just literally pick it up and move it over and say, you know what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work out. It's not what you thought it would be. But if something is compelling you that strongly to go forward with it, you have a responsibility to that. You need to go forward with it. It means your soul is calling you to do that agreement, and you sort of you've been slacking, you've been slacking on the whole thing and letting it just just go by the wayside. You gave yourself 1,000 excuses. You gave everybody else that was asking you 1,000 excuses, and you just never did it. And there's no reason for that. I mean, I am a person that constantly hides. I was hiding as best I could. I was never going out of my apartment even then. And how I ended up on a national radio show is beyond me, but that happened. And then after that, I was on television all over the world. How did that happen? I never left my apartment except to go to the radio show. So it's because I removed that one obstacle of fear. I took that fear out of my path, and I said, you know what? The worst that can happen is they just say no, and the universe shows me that that's not working. But I kept feeling like that was where I was meant to go. And I know some of you guys feel that about yourselves because I've read some of you. So, um, how do you dispel the fear? How do you take it out of your path? It's not something that is a physical thing, but the best way that I know is that concentrate, instead of the fear, concentrate on the moving forward part that I just talked about. Just concentrate on that movement. You're giving power or energy to the movement forward. Stop thinking about, is it right? Will I be accepted? Will I be a success? Will I be laughed at, ridiculed? Will I lose friends and family over this? Like, what's going to happen? Stop worrying about the results of all the outside externals. Stop looking at that like it even has a place in your life at this point. If you've got this sort of calling and you've got this thing in the back of your mind and it just won't shut up, and you need to do this because you wake up every day loving it, well then you just need to do it and concentrate on the forward motion instead of the fear that's in your path. So you'll just pick up the fear like it's just some sort of branch that fell in the road from a storm, and you'll just move it over. And that's the imagery. You move it over, and then you just keep going forward on this yellow brick road, and hopefully you end up in Oz. You don't know. A lot of times I can see where you're going to go, so that's why you guys get readings, but that's not necessary for this process. You need to just see that you're capable of taking the fear and just moving it like a branch that fell in the road. You're just going to move it over, and the forward motion will guide you. The universe isn't going to lead you into danger unless you keep doubting yourself about picking up that branch and moving it over. That has been the obstacle that I have seen in so many readings. I just had to address it in this podcast. I had to say something about it. And I woke up this morning, and that's when I knew this is what we were going to talk about today. I have dismissed my personal life, never even looked at it or thought that it was a thing. And I admitted to myself that that was a fear. So I took the fear and I just moved it over. And here I am. I can't tell you what a transformation that's happening inside of me, but there is one. And anybody that's been reading with me or listening to me for years knows that I'm different now. Some of you guys have been here for quite some time. So you know I'm different now. There's like even my neighbor who bought my car was saying to me down the hall yesterday, He looked at me and he goes, "I don't know what happened to you." And then I finally told him what happened. And he said, "I don't know what happened to you, but all of a sudden you're radiating." He said, "You're so different from a couple of years ago." And I just took that branch out of my path and I lifted it over. I didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't expect this to happen. I addressed my fear of moving forward and I just let it happen. I just allowed myself to move forward instead of paralyzing myself with the thing that I thought was the greatest excuse in the world. Oh, this is my career. I have to be of service to people and I have to sacrifice everything. No, you don't. That was some like falsehood I was buying into, that I needed to sacrifice all my happiness so that I could do this for you guys. I don't know where I got that idea. It was just something I held on to. And it actually was the fuel that was feeding my fear every day. And it just built up. And it got really bad after COVID. I mean, I just let that build up like some sort of, like some sort of snowstorm, and there's like 10 feet of snow outside my door kind of thing. And I just let that happen. And I finally admitted to myself and looked in the mirror and looked at the fear that I was having about that. And I'm like, well, why am I doing that? The worst thing that can happen is I go back to my old life if stuff doesn't work out, right? That was the worst thing that could happen. But now that's not happening, and I'm sleeping better. I have better psychic ability when I'm reading people. I'm my skills are much more honed now. I I am much more myself than I was when I was filming, because even when I was filming for Hunting Evidence and the shows on History Channel, and I was doing panels on court TV for various crime cases and missing persons. I mean, they would fly me out. Court TV would fly me out for the weekend, put me up in a boutique hotel in Manhattan, and then fly me back to Los Angeles, all for one show. Like, I would just go out there and be on the panel. It was 20 minutes of work, and I would stay the weekend, and they would fly me back. It was, I wasn't thinking about what am I putting in my own path that's stopping me. All I did was I was a machine and I just kept going. I was only home 1 week out of every month. And I found myself using all that as an excuse to not do my other agreements. And I robbed myself of the rest of my life because I thought, oh, well, that looks noble to do that. I can't tell you how happy I am that I took that obstacle in my way, that fear, and I just moved it over to the side. And I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? That's what you want to ask yourself. What's the worst that can happen? So, is this my destiny? It certainly feels like it. And I need to hear from you guys now because I want to know, each person is different for what their fear is and where it originates from. And each person has to be able to identify it first in order to remove it from your path. It was that simple for me. I woke up one day and I just moved it over and I stopped adhering to these archaic rules that I was giving myself, because they had no they had no bearing on what was going on in my life. I don't even know, I can't even remember why I allowed those rules to permeate my life to begin with. Hey Annie, I see you over there. All right, so ask me a question about this, about your own fear, why it is that you aren't able to at least identify it? And if you do identify it, what is stopping you from just trying this? And my trick that worked for me with each plateau that I hit in my life was I concentrated not on the fear, which was the obstacle, the fear of failure, the fear of ridicule, the fear of whatever it was that you were going to be afraid of. And I concentrated on the forward movement. That's the thing that propelled me forward. And I stopped being goal oriented. Oh, I have to, if it doesn't, if I'm not able to accomplish, whatever it is, if I'm not able to accomplish that goal, then I'm going to quit. Stop with the goal. Forget the goal. Eliminate the goal. Just put it out of your mind. The goal will always be there, but that fear of not reaching that goal actually puts you in a cage. And the cage can paralyze you. It'll make you not have forward movement, and forward magic trick to get me out of my own way. Every time I think about every major accomplishment I've ever had in this lifetime, and it was that I was afraid of XYZ. And once I just threw caution to the wind and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do this. And what's the worst that can happen? Every time I said that and moved that fear just to the side of the road, it didn't go away. It was on the side of the road. I'll deal with that later. Well, then I went back and looked at the fear and it sort of disappeared. That was the beautiful part about that, was that it sort of disappeared. It just became invisible, which tells me that it was a construct of my mind to begin with. It was me just erecting these obstacles so that I wouldn't have to do whatever it was that I was afraid of doing. And it's ironic that I was in the public eye as much as I was, because I would hide. I wouldn't socialize with people. I wouldn't go out. And yet I had to do this other thing. I had to be in front of the world doing what I did. And I just stopped thinking about what I was putting in front of me as an obstacle, that fear. And instead of eliminating the fear, you don't want to eliminate it because that won't work either. So you just move it over. Just move it over to the side of the road. You can always come back and visit it later. Well, when I came back and visited that fear, whatever that was, in fear was no longer there on the side of the road. It was a construct of my mind, my imagination, and I made that up, I guess. So I finally looked at that. And you guys are in that same mess. A lot of you I read, and you guys are in that same mind frame, that you you construct these obstacles for yourself that really have no bearing on anything. It makes you feel better. It's a placebo. It makes you feel better to have that there. You can lean on it as your excuse, but then you complain that you don't get whatever it is that you're trying to do with your life, moving it forward. So my magic trick was concentrate on the moving forward part. Put the blinders on. Just allow yourself to concentrate on the moving forward. That's all you got to do. It's as simple as that. And when you see that branch in your road, which is the fear, just don't eliminate it. Just put it to the side for a second. You can always visit it later. And chances are it'll be just like me, where you go back and visit, and that fear is no longer there. Most of you who have been here for a while know that I have extreme OCD in this apartment. Extreme. And it's funny, as I'm like packing my bag and like getting all my stuff out of storage in here, I am doing stuff against the OCD that I never thought I would do. Like, one of the bags was packed since, I don't know, 2018. And I opened it yesterday for the first time. I had a bag over it so it wouldn't get dusty, but I have no storage in here, none. So I had to get creative with how I stored everything. So I just started, I was doing stuff that I hadn't ever done in here, and it's chipping away at the OCD. And I'm realizing I don't need that anymore. I don't need that crutch anymore. I was holding on to it for dear life, and it was stopping me from becoming a better psychic, becoming more pronounced in my gifts and what I have to show you guys and how I have to teach you. It was stopping me from being happy. And how is that going to teach you if I'm not happy first? How's that going to teach you? It's not. And I started realizing that me being, I wasn't miserable. I mean, I was happy with what I was doing, but I was kind of empty. I was empty on that side. I was, it was all the veneer that I was putting out there. And I realized that the OCD just doesn't have a place anymore. So I'm moving now, and I'll leave the OCD here, and I'll have maybe like 4 or 5% of that when I move. And that's the residue that I'll bring with me. And that's it. And I don't need it anymore. There's no reason to have it. There was probably no reason to have it in the first place, but I allowed the OCD to absorb my trauma from different events that happened in my life from before. And it was sort of like this vessel that absorbed all the pain and all the, you know, it made it so I didn't even have to look at it. I just stored it in there. So I allowed the OCD to do that. And I just told everyone I had severe OCD, and they just didn't ask me. And I started deconstructing that. And I got to tell you, I am so much a happier person now that I started breaking that down. I, you know, yeah, there's love there, but that's not the reason I started breaking it. I saw what I was doing to myself. I was putting such major obstacles in my road, and I have such opportunity to do great things this lifetime. And I was stopping myself from doing that. I had already done great things every single time I did put that fear aside. I moved that branch to the side of the road, and I found myself going, well, why don't I do that again? It's never too late to just do that again. You can keep doing that, and that's your go-to. That's the thing that will save you. That's the thing that will take that thing you fear the most, whether it's being acknowledged by your peers, or if it's gaining recognition for something, or you're doing a project that you've believed in forever, and you're using parts of your personality to erect this obstacle that doesn't need to be there. And the only reason I know mine isn't there anymore, I went back to look at my fear. I went back to look at the OCD that I used to have. I mean, it was so bad that if I stepped outside this door, I hyperventilated. I couldn't go outside my door for a while. And then I looked at it, I looked back and I looked at it, and I'm not having those same feelings anymore. So my relationship to myself has changed. And that's how I know this is the right thing to do. And when you guys make that choice, whatever it is, whatever that life choice is, whatever that path is, whatever it is you're afraid of, that's bigger than life and it's so big, and I don't know if I can do it, and it looks impossible, and I don't know if, it's the right thing to do or my destiny to do, and I don't know if I'm going to be successful or whatever. And you're looking for all these external things to hold on to while you get there. There's no reason. There's this trick where you look at the fear like it's a branch in your road. You get out of your car, you pick up the branch, you drag it to the other side of the road. It'll be there later if you want it to be. You can go visit it, and sit there with it for a while if you're feeling like you want to. And all you're going to concentrate on is moving forward. You put the blinders on, you move forward. You don't think about anything else. You don't think about the goal. Throw the goal to the side. The goal has no place here. The goal was already in place. You don't need to keep looking at it. The goal sometimes will erase your trajectory. It'll erase it. It'll, you're just doing this one shot to the goal. And most, if not 99% of all life lessons is not the goal, but the path to the goal. So again, these are just little tricks that I found out, pearls of wisdom, just from dealing with my own stuff and my own fear, which was huge. It was extreme OCD to the point where my dad wanted to put me on medication for it. Because it was preventing me from doing a lot of things. And I became slightly agoraphobic, where I wouldn't go outside my door. And I would just blame the OCD for it. I don't know what's wrong with me, but for whatever reason, I allowed myself to get out of the car, move that branch over, that fear, that branch. I moved it over to the side of the road. All I did was thinking about going forward. And I thought, well, why the hell not at this point? And I'm here to tell you, I am so happy I did that. Because, like I said, every major advancement in my life or accolade, or anything that I've done that's noted, or becoming famous for, any of those things, was because I concentrated on moving forward. I didn't know how the hell I was going to do it, because I was locking myself in here 24/7. And my friends were actually trying. My one friend wanted to do it an intervention at one point, and because she knew that I was up for this one show, and it was MTV Sphere, and she knew. She's like, "How are you going to do that? You don't leave your apartment." And I said, "I don't know, but I'm just going to go forward." And I remembered saying that to myself back then. So you have to keep this in check. Like, this isn't something that you just do once and then it's gone. You have to keep that in check, just like you have to take supplements, to make your health in order and in balance. It's something that you have to keep reminding yourself. And I had to remind myself once again that I was doing this to myself, and I couldn't figure out a good reason why. So I just concentrated on moving forward. The same thing. The same thing that got me out of here in the first place, every single time I did like this major project. I am definitely not a person. I was shying away from TV, trust me. I was shying away from that. I didn't want to be famous. I had no aspirations for that, but I knew that was where it was going. So I had to take that branch out of my path and just, okay, I'm just going to go forward. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't imagine it's any worse than me throwing myself into my OCD the way I was doing. And I've been so happy each time I do that. Um, all right, so I'm going to put it out there to you guys. Give me a request to speak. And if you've got something like that in your life, I'll help you identify like how it is that you can move that branch of fear out of your road and concentrate, put the blinders on and just concentrate on the moving forward. Each one of us has some sort of handicap. Trust me, there's nobody on earth that's born without one. And some of the greatest names in history are the ones who are truly messed up. I mean, they either have mental illness or they are completely socially inept. They don't have any real skills with interacting with people around the world. It's some of uh, the greatest advances in history have come from those types of people. And how did they get through it? Well, if you look at certain points in their history, they just kept going forward. They didn't look at the goal, they just looked at what they loved doing, and they let it propel them forward, no matter what. That's where the path was leading them. So I don't know if some of this has helped you guys, but I needed to address it like on a big scale here because it was happening every single reading. I was deconstructing fear obstacles for people, and I'm like, well, why don't I just talk about this? Why don't I just tell you guys how I did it, and then maybe that might help you. um too many times we're waiting for an external to afford us that opportunity or give us a sign, give us a sign that it's okay to go forward. First of all, nobody's stopping you from going forward except you. Let's look at that first. That's the first thing you got to look at, is that it's you. Nobody else is stopping you. Nobody else is robbing you of your opportunity except you. And you give yourself these excuses enough every morning, then you you block yourself in like I was doing. I mean, a lot of people don't know this about me because I've never really said it out loud before, but I might as well now. So, people knew I had OCD, but they didn't know how debilitating it was. It was bad. I mean, where my friends were going, "How are you going to do this? You can't even leave your apartment." And I was buying like $5,000 worth of clothes and shoes and boots and whatever. And they said, "You don't go anywhere. What are you doing?" And my one friend, her name was Shelly, I remember she said, "I was 5 seconds away from intervention and just sitting you down." And I said, "I knew I had to buy this stuff. I didn't know why." And then I was all done buying. I stopped. And 2 weeks later, I got MTV's Fear as my first series, and I had to buy luggage. That was the only thing I had to buy. I had all the clothes for travel. And I looked at her and I said, "See, this is why I did this. I didn't know why I was doing it. I didn't care. I just knew that I had to do this, and at one point I doubted myself and I thought I was clinically insane. But I just kept doing it because I knew something was happening. And I'm so glad I did, because they didn't give me any time to get ready. They said, "Get ready. In 2 weeks, we're going all around the world. So you're traveling with us." And I said, "Okay." And the luggage was the last thing that I bought. So sometimes it's just you. Okay. And most of the time it's just you putting that obstacle in your path, whatever it is, whatever the illness is, whatever the excuse is. Oh, I can't do it because of, X, Y, and Z. Um, it's nice to have those crutches here and there, but most times when people contact me for readings, it's because you don't know that you allowed that crutch that you lean on to actually become part of you. It actually was like an extension of you after a while. And you have no idea how to remove it without hurting yourself. How do you amputate that fear pattern from yourself? How do you cut that off without harming you? And will you be able to remove it without taking part of yourself with it? And I'm here to say that it's fine. I'm in one piece. Actually, I'm better now than I was. Um, because that branch that's growing on you, that fear, is is toxic, and it will create illnesses that don't need to be in your body. It will create nightmares you don't need to experience. It'll do all these things because you're holding on to it like some sort of pacifier, some sort of security blanket. And when in fact, it paralyzes you and it keeps you from moving forward. The key is moving forward, and that's the only thing you want to put in your mind. The moving forward part. Nothing else. Not the goal. The goal's already there. You don't need to redo the goal or look at it or clean up the goal, or you don't need to do anything with the goal. The goal is already there, it's already in place. You don't need to tweak the goal. The goal will be at the end. You have to trust that the goal is at the end. The path is the life lesson. The process of how you get to that goal is the most important thing, not the goal itself. Because that path and the process is what you're going to take with you as your legacy when you exit this lifetime and every lifetime. That path, your behavior on that path, your experiences on that path, how you navigate that path. That's going to be the thing that you will take with you to the astral plane. And then when you do a life review, it's not going to be all your goals that you had. That's not going to be in the life review. It's going to be how you got to that goal and your interactions with other souls and how you navigated that path to that goal. That's going to be the thing. Everybody is like, so goal oriented in the reads, and that's the first thing that I do if I'm reading somebody new. I just take that goal and I'm like, okay, throw that out right now. The goal is going to be there. It's cemented in your brain. We know that's the goal. You don't need to look at that. We need to look at how you're getting to the goal and why you're not moving. Why is there no movement towards the goal? Okay, I'm done pontificating here. Um, I need to know if you guys have any questions because otherwise, I just needed to get this out there. I needed you guys to see what you were doing to yourselves, on your path, on your journey, and why you keep asking me, well, why is it that I'm not, I don't get those opportunities. I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard. No, you're not. The simplest thing is going to open up that path for you. The simplest thing. You're going to take that branch of fear that you adhere to like glue, and you're going to just move it to the side of the road. That's the imagery. Once you're done doing that, allow yourself to just keep going forward. Make sure the blinders are on so you're not like being distracted by either side of the road. And you're just going to keep going forward because the path is your life lesson. The path, not the destination. The destination's already there, it's already mapped out. Stop worrying about that. Stop worrying about getting to that destination. God, if I thought about that every time I worked a crime scene, oh, I have to solve it or otherwise, my purpose here is nothing. I never thought that. I'm like, you know what? Any little piece of the puzzle that I can add to this, they are one step closer. And that's all I thought about. I didn't think about I have to be right 100% of the time. I didn't allow my psychic senses that I was developing to to be littered with all that nonsense. I allowed myself to just go forward and do this thing, and hey, take what you will from what I just gave you. And sure enough, most of what I gave them turned out to be true, and it actually helped a lot. So it turned out that I wasn't there for the fame or the acknowledgement or to, you know, stroke my ego. I was there just to be on that path and learn how to navigate it and to get out of my own way long enough so I could proffer what I could with what I was given. So that's a new part of me that you guys didn't know about. I mean, I think you knew about it, but not to the extent that it was. Um, and I it's so funny because yesterday I was like, how is this still me that I'm like putting stuff on the floor that I never did before, and that would freak me out before. And I just did it and I didn't have a reaction to it. And then I went outside my door today and I didn't freak out or hyperventilate or have to prepare. I just went out like a normal person. And I went down to the lobby and I had to pick something up and then come back. And it was so weird for me to just do all this because for all these years and for decades, that's all I did was adhere to the rules of the OCD, and that was my life, and that was the bubble I placed myself in because I thought the bubble was protecting me. And you guys, each of you that I have read, you guys each have a bubble just like that. And I'm hoping that me saying this is illuminating some of that for you. All right, you guys. So, if anybody wants to say anything, send me a request to speak. Otherwise, I'll wrap it up and take from this what you will. But there's a lot of, I gave you how to do it. And it's basically moving forward. That's the key. Moving forward. Put the blinders on, move forward. You're not going to think about anything else. You're not going to think about the goal, the destination, nothing. You're not going to think about what you used to have as an obstacle in front of you, because that obstacle will now represent that branch that you get out of your car, you go, you drag the branch over to the side of the road. You can visit it later if you want. And you get back in your car and you just go forward. You are moving forward. That's the key to unlocking. Each one of you has these aspirations. You've all talked to me about it. Just let yourself do this. Just try it this way. If I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. But I'm telling you, this has worked for. I had a friend here when I first moved here. His name was Michael, and I remember he was, again, so goal oriented and looking for acknowledgement from other producers and this and that. And, eventually he owns a major design firm here, and, multi-million dollar design firm now. And it's because we talked about, I said, look, what's the worst that can happen? Just keep going forward. Stop locking it into this one goal or this one thing that you have to do. And if you don't do that one thing, then you failed. Well, maybe that one thing wasn't the thing you were supposed to do. And just let yourself go forward. The mapping will present itself without you having to do a thing, as long as you keep going forward. That's all you got to concentrate on. And he and I both, came into our own successes at the same time. And I said, see what happened? And now he designed, every star in television and film, he's done their home. And he just he looked at me and he said, sometimes you're profound when you say things. And I said, I'm not trying to be profound. I look at a very simple solution, because most of you guys are making it way too hard. You think that this is like some difficult treasure map or something. And no, it's a simple thing that will unlock your path. And then you'll keep going on the path. You'll keep moving forward. So, anyway, if anybody has any questions, last call. If you just want to ask something about your own path or your own fear and what's causing you to be paralyzed and not move forward, and then I can tell you in your example, but otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. I want you guys to think about what I just said, and I want to hear about it. You're all thinking right now. I'm in your heads. You're all thinking right now. All right. I want you to take what I've said and apply it. You're all my little apprentices. And I want you to go out there and try what I've just said. Moving forward is the key, not the destination. The branch is easily moved to the side of the road. That's your version of OCD. The obstacle that keeps you from doing all the things. Michelle, you know what I'm talking about. All right. I am going to close it out for tonight. And I hope you guys got something out of that, because I really, really, really wanted to talk about this tonight. And I wish you all well. I'm kissing you all, and I'll see you guys next week. Okay. And we'll pick another topic that hopefully will apply to something major in your life, or minor. Sometimes it's the minor things that are the most important. All right. I am going to sign off. I'll get this up on all the platforms, and you guys will be able to see this on YouTube. YouTube takes the longest. I'm not really sure why podcasts take so long to get up. I don't know what their deal is, but YouTube takes the longest. So Maybe it's because they're so saturated over there, but everything else goes up pretty fast. I will have that up shortly within the hour, and let me know on the comments what you guys thought. Okay, good night.